One.
Kia ora koutou, and a very warm welcome to today's webinar, Leading Innovation with AI in Education. Ko Jill Farquharson Tukaunga, and I am part of the Masters of Contemporary Education team, and it's my pleasure to welcome you here today, and particularly our guest speaker, Dr. Michael Harvey. Warm welcome to you, Michael. Before we begin, I'd just like to open up with a karakia, and also to advise you that today's session will be recorded. You will get a copy of the recording, but just to let you know that it is, the webinar is being recorded. Ko te kawa oranga, ko te kawa oraro, ko te kawa ora, ko te kawa ora. E rongo whakahiri ati ki ronga, turatua whiti whakamau ki a tina, hui e, tai ki e, tiha Māori ora. And so joining us today also we have Lisa Whittington Slater, and Lisa is here to share a little bit about Academy EX programs. And I thought it was quite fitting that we would start with Lisa, because she's going to share not only a little bit about the programs, but it's going to segue really nicely into Michael's session, because Michael is an alumni, and Michael has been part of the student body at Academy EX, and we're also going to hear from him about his experiences and how that has certainly helped him in his leadership journey, and certainly in the area of developing AI with other peers that he worked with at Academy EX. So Lisa, would you just like to start us off by sharing a little bit about the programs that we have on offer at Academy EX?
Thank you, Jill. Academy EX, the Mind Lab, is non-traditional and really, really practical. A couple of programs I'd like to share about today is our postgrad certificate in digital, and collaborative learning. It's contemporary skills, but just as much changing pedagogy of teaching, how you teach. There's leadership and collaboration in there. We're really for the diversity of thought. That program can be done completely live online, 32 weeks with one session once a week, 6:30 to 8. And then there are a couple of blocks in there that can be done face-to-face or live online. We have intakes in March and August next year. That program the postgrad is the first third of our Master of Contemporary Education. The main focus of that Master's is a change project of your choice. It could be your work focus, your passion, it's up to you. We'll walk alongside you to get that thing done, that thing you always wanted to change. We have intakes in January and July for those who have done the postgrad, and for those who want to do the whole journey, we have intakes in March and in August. Our applications are open for 2026 to enrol, and we have a limited number of 50% scholarships available, either for the postgrad or the whole journey, the Master of Contemporary Education. The scholarships are Tangata Whenua, Pacific Ako, Taipeki over 55, and Impact with the intent to do good for the world, people, and the planet, which we see educators as servant leaders, so you're definitely one, if not more, of those scholarships. We have a range of ideas and ways we can help you with funding. There is Study Link, Choose the Mind Lab. We have multiple different templates you could use to approach your work or any groups or associations you're part of. There is early bird discount of up to 10% off course fees if you apply a month prior. That can't be combined with our scholarships. Thank you, Jill.
Good, Lisa. And if you wanted any further details, Lisa's contact is on the screen. So please feel free. She really likes talking to people. So please feel free to contact her. She's a wealth of knowledge, and she will give you as much information as you need to get you started on your journey. Thanks, Lisa. Really appreciate it. Michael, what a wonderful segue into you. And before we start, I am going to share a little bit about your background because as I read it, I was pretty impressed. Not the fact that you were living in Blenheim, sunny Blenheim, and he's just told us that it's 26 degrees down there because it's not where we are. So enjoy the warmth, Michael. But Michael is the Director of e-learning at Marlborough Boys College, and he certainly is one of the leading voices in how schools can use AI to enhance human intelligence and not replace it. And that really resonated with me, and it was certainly one of the reasons that I thought it would be of huge value, Michael, to tap into your expertise and share your thinking around that area. Michael's a science teacher by trade, secondary science teacher, but in these days he's helping educators re-image AI by building things that we all appreciate as educators: creativity, curiosity, and care in the classroom. He has a global profile. He works with global networks like ISTE, which is the International Society for Technology in Education, and has spoken at conferences there. ASEF, which is the Asia European Foundation, and Microsoft Education, where he connects teachers across the world. So certainly has a global perspective on ethical and inclusive uses of AI and what that looks like in education. Michael believes that AI should be our thinking partner and not our shortcut, and that the real future of learning is one where we can see empathy, identity, and innovation all sitting side by side. And I couldn't agree with him more. So a warm welcome to you, Michael. Segueing really nicely into the work that you did do in your studies at Academy EX, and how that has supported you in either igniting that passion or perhaps piquing your interest in particular areas to do with AI. And just as importantly are the relationships that you would have developed with other students at the time, but now alumni. And I know that you've got a really exciting project happening with someone that you did work quite closely with during your time as a student here. So perhaps we could start off by sharing a little bit about that with us.
Yeah, I guess my learnings from Academy X basically have profoundly influenced my leadership mindset in particular around digital technology. So looking at design thinking, collaboration, and also the purposeful innovation, which you've kind of briefly highlighted. And it's kind of driving me how I can integrate AI at Marlborough Boys College. So the idea being that rather than just adding AI tools for novelty's sake, so the tool driving the learning, basically we're anchoring every AI initiative with clear learning intentions. On Friday, I've got a meeting with the RTLB team for Marlborough, where we can actually incorporate UDL principles in a PBL designed AI course, and also developing student agency, which is quite big to me. So it's all about using tech not to basically build the capacity of our teachers and learners, and also develop confidence across our community here in Marlborough. So it's also kind of talking to whānau of how to integrate technology with their sons and daughters. Yeah, so in terms of that project, I don't know how in depth we want to go with it, but yeah, so 10 years ago, wow. 10 years ago, yeah, I basically did the DCL course and got to know Suzanne Thomas, who's now Director of Future Learning, I think is her fancy new title at Westlake Girls. And now 10 years in the future, through ASEF, which you've mentioned, she was my mentor. So I guess the apprentice became the master. For our global project. So basically, we were designing how to use artificial intelligence ethically, and with agency for our students, and not only here in New Zealand, but we connected with educators, at least in our project, in Ireland and in China.
Tell us a little bit more about that global perspective and how you bring an Indigenous lens across that. And in particular, if you can touch on just a culturally responsive practice using AI in Aotearoa New Zealand.
So I guess that's the aspect of the human aspect of and cultural well-being. So
Mm.
as a Kiwi, I'm particularly guided by Te Ao Māori perspective. So seeing actually intelligence as being collective, relational, and ethical. And basically AI has allowed me to explore these ideas. So in our project, we looked at manaakitanga, care for the environment, because it was through an energy lens, kiatitanga, so guardianship, again, of the environment, and also rangatiratanga, so the idea of the students having self-determination and agency using the AI tools during the project. Yeah.
Michael, just tell us a little bit about, because student agency is certainly something that not only is a contemporary approach and quite topical, but it's also probably one of the most interesting, but it's also sometimes one of the most challenging things to use AI tools to develop. Can you just share a little bit about how you've done that? I know I'm going off topic here a little bit because these are not the set questions that we had talked about, but just hearing you speak, it really is quite interesting how you've developed this.
Yeah, so basically the idea behind it, so AI is different than any other tool we've had previously. So most tools, or all tools we've used, have been very transactional. So for example, for a calculator, you plug in the numbers, you get an answer. Whereas AI is primarily a relational tool. And because of that, it's how we're actually developing that relationship with the tool. And so that basically the small language model that I used essentially used Socratic questioning. So rather than just getting answers from the artificial intelligence, it was more of a thinking partner or a kind of guide by the side who could prompt the students to think deeper into the project. So rather than just giving answers straight away, it was like, so for example, why do you think there is a difference between the energy consumption using coal for China compared to New Zealand, for example, or the fact that Ireland doesn't even use coal? Well, I didn't know that. But then during the project, we learned about that. But also the project was making them think about the ethical aspects of artificial intelligence. Hallucinations, for example, because at the beginning of the project, the students had the idea, oh, because it's coming from AI, it must be truthful. And also the idea of the biases associated with artificial intelligence, because most of the data is coming from the US. So it's very US centric in its approach. Whereas actually we've got 1 billion Hindi speakers, for example, which aren't really represented, or even Te Ao Māori isn't really represented in artificial intelligence, and kind of thinking about in the back end, the way I put it is like we prompting the human first before they use the AI. That's kind of the lens I was looking at it through.
And just your I mean, you've talked about your studies as part of the DCL program that you undertook to develop some really strong professional relationships. Just what other areas would have been sort of initiators for you in developing your skill set around AI? How did that come about? Were there particular areas of innovation that you wanted to explore?
I guess from my end, it initially began to look at it through giving teachers time back, because we never have enough time, obviously. So basically, my first kind of iterations with artificial intelligence was automating administrative tasks. But then, yeah, because this is kind of so the last 3 weeks, I've been looking at the ISTE proposals, and most of them seem to be tool-based. Then I thought a bit deeper on that. So I think it's actually a deeper opportunity to actually redefine pedagogy. So not just focusing on efficiency, in fact, not even focusing on efficiency, because all we're doing is maintaining the status quo faster. So then it shifted to the idea again of AI being a thinking partner for both my students and also my staff. So the idea is it's actually amplifying the human intelligence rather than replacing it. So the example I'll give actually is in our school, there was a desire for the AI to be a marker of assessments. And then we had to look at that through an ethical lens and say, well, yeah, but you've got the hallucinations, you've got those aspects. So we have to stand back and say, at the heart of it, we need to have the educator at the kind of crux of that marking approach. So rather than the AI being a marker, you give the grade to the student, it can be kind of another example of a team member. You can, oh, what do you think of this? Because AI can find those kind of biases actually in your own marking, which then you have to critically analyze and discuss. So for my department, became a conversation starter. It wasn't just the be all end all of here's the AI, it's given a mark, it must be right. It's actually the human is still at the heart of the entire process.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree with you more. So how does that translate then into, you talked about being a thinking partner, with that example for staff in terms of, how they would use it for marking purposes. But how does that translate into what would it look like in the classroom with the students, with your students, secondary students?
Yeah, so for my senior physics class, being a boys' school, we're quite competitive. So basically, there's a battle of the two physics teachers. So one physics teacher's designed his small language model. I've designed mine. Obviously, I smack talk to him about his model, and he does the same for mine. But essentially, what the models both do is they don't, again, give the answers directly. It basically says, okay, so you've done this correctly. What about this? What can you do to get to merit? What are you missing from your questions? Yeah, because I can't be available to my students 24/7 as much as I'd like to. So the AI is kind of supplementing my teaching when I am asleep. Yeah,
And your students are asleep, hopefully too. Yes.
yes.
So
Yeah,
obviously it
it's actually interesting
comes.
seeing their time though. They're all awake at 2 a.m. I don't understand why, but yeah,
I'll have you say something about
I
that.
do. I do.
You mentioned that. Sleep is the most important thing for the rangatahi.
Yeah, for the living.
Just thinking about, because it will come with challenges and opportunities, not only for Akonga, but also for Ka'ako. Can you just share a little bit about how you've managed that? Because in a large school like Marlborough Boys, you're going to have some early adopters and you're going to have some resistors. So for staff, there'll be some challenges and there'll be some opportunities, and also for the students. Can you perhaps just share a little bit how you've managed that?
Yeah, so we actually have innovative learning leaders in each department. So the idea for mine is 2 years ago when I took the role, I tried to make it more humanistic and more one-on-one. So it used to be we do PED to be just like a big, okay, everyone gets a 1 hour. We're going to now use this tool and then we'll go off. Whereas I try to make it more one-on-one and meet people where they are. So some people are shooting off now and doing more advanced stuff than I am. That's fine. And others are taking smaller steps. So it's actually just developing that again, it's about human relationships. So it's about developing that relationship with each educator, seeing where they are and seeing them on their journey and slowly, incrementally moving them forward.
And it probably comes down to a level of trust too, that the relationship they have with you is a trusting relationship. So you're willing to probably bare their souls. Share a little bit about what you've seen as the impact on the school.
So yeah, in terms of the school, I would say the major impact is basically with the teachers being, especially the heads of department, actually being quite willing to take risks. So we've seen increases in student engagement, at least in my physics classes, because that's kind of where most of it's begun. But now we're having the confidence also of teachers coming up and saying, "Oh, I've tried this." So the business studies teacher was an example of that last week. Increasing the agency of the learners because they can go off and use the tools. We even had an award-winning YES program, so they've actually developed their own small language model they're sharing with fellow students around essay development. That's actually the 3-year 13s, and also developing metacognition, so thinking about the thinking. So it also links with our UDL because it basically they can express their understanding in multiple ways, especially looking at things like Notebook LM. So you can create videos, you can create podcasts, you can create mind maps. So hopefully, I'm slowly seeing in the staff that they're more open, more reflective, and a little bit more future focused. But there's still that teacher confidence issues. That's always something to focus on.
But certainly that scaffolding you would make a huge difference in knowing that you're there. I mean, you are there for the right reasons. So that would be a huge bonus for the school. If you were to measure, how would you measure success for an innovation that you had developed in the area of AI or an experimental project that you might have started? Using AI, how would you measure success?
I guess again, I'd measure it in human terms. So it's about the empowering the learners. Do they feel included? They're developing more creative ways of looking at the learning, which is actually quite interesting for my Year 11 class. When we first started the project, the main thing was, is this worth credit, sir? But yeah, oh God, yeah. So the same thing, I think, everywhere. But then they slowly, when I trying to discuss explicitly the other skills that they're learning around, say, cross-cultural competence, which we don't really do much of in New Zealand, they saw actually it's an advantage for them in the future of work as well. And also we looked at it through our qualitative student reflections and engagement metrics because it was through Microsoft Teams.
And this is a personal question for you, just in terms of building your leadership capacity. You've obviously started off with a passion for people and a passion obviously for using AI. Just how has AI impacted on your leadership capacity and capabilities? Has it supported that part of your career journey?
Yeah, I think problem with AI still is it's quite sycophantic. So it's actually developing ways that the AI can actually challenge me and my misconceptions. It's the same with the marking model. So the idea that it's finding the gaps in my understanding that I need to actually work on, but also seeing some of my strengths. That I don't know how much of that is sycophancy, but yeah, so it actually allows me to find, yeah, because basically I'm using the small language models as a team. So it's giving me different advice from different aspects, so literacy, numeracy, assessment, the curriculum. And actually is making me more reflective. Like one of the things, it's supposed to save time. For me, it doesn't actually save time because I just use the time differently. Yeah, rather than
But you're also challenging. You're challenging. You're putting up that challenge there too. So, it just as a leader, how do you see AI being something that could be harnessed long term for leadership development?
that's interesting in terms of leadership development. In terms of AI
I
and
know
leadership development, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I think in that space you are. It's a good question. So
it's
yeah, I
not,
think in
and
terms
it's
of the
not
lead.
on the list. So
No,
it's
I
just really
know. That's why I'm
interesting
just
talking to you.
yeah. Yeah, I think in terms
Throwing
of
it out there.
leadership, the if you model it correctly, it can challenge your misconceptions because that's the big thing I'm learning that it finds the gaps in your understanding that you need to work on and that you need support from other people around. But I think also the AI for me, at least in my context, has actually developed the conversations to have. So it's a primer for conversations, for example, moderation. So basically, you get the moderation from the AI, and then you're sitting around saying, yeah, okay, maybe this is right. I didn't think of that. What about this? So it's actually enhancing the relationships, the human relationships, rather than actually perversely not actually distracting from them, because actually it's a starter for conversations.
And also giving some people confidence to do that, to make that challenging comment or that presumption, challenging the presumptions, which quite often, if you're an emerging leader, you don't tend to do that with people that might have a little bit more of a experience or skill set than you. So could be the next thing. I'm keen, just looking at the time now, because we did say that this would be a half-hour webinar, and I know it's, even though the seniors have gone in secondary schools, things are still pretty hectic in our education sector with the end of the year looming really, really quickly. So I want to make sure that we round this up as we said we would, around about 4:00, and then if there's any Q&A, we can do that, or any follow-up, we can do that afterwards. So the last three areas that I wanted to touch on with you, Michael, was really looking ahead at the future thinking, because you've come such a long way. I didn't realize it was 10 years that since you're done.
Oh,
Doesn't time fly? So if we're looking back for 10, let's look ahead for 10. Where do you see the next big opportunities for innovation in education? Any comments around that?
Asian education. Yeah, well, I'm a big fan of UDL.
Mm-hmm.
So I would think something around AI-enabled universal design for learning would be quite powerful. Because at the moment, the space seems to be that we are basically providing teachers tools to roughly differentiate, but I would say we need to be providing the students the agency to do that. So they should be able to use
Yeah.
artificial intelligence. So whatever I give as a teacher, they can use the AI tools to assimilate it to what they're learning, how they wish to design their own learning around. So yeah, so I think there's huge potential in
Mm.
student-built small language models. That's my thing at the moment, small language models and agents. So that can support basically their own learning. So rather than the teachers providing the content, because that's the consumer idea of a
Yeah.
consumer and a producer. And I think there's also space around, I guess I talked to lots of American friends around this, the idea of entrepreneurialism, which is possible, yeah, so it kind of focus around students developing their own digital portfolios, becoming kind of entrepreneurs. Because the future
Yes.
of work, I've done the numbers, and it's not particularly great in terms of starting up now for young people. So we've got like 45 plus, sweet as, so most on the call will be quite happy with that because basically you have the content knowledge and you have the AI skills because you're experts. Where it's very hard now, I think, for students to jump into those entry level positions. So even the
Mm.
idea of being in a career or actually being in a company, rather than saying, "Well, I can start my own company with Web 3.0 and artificial intelligence." Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, good point. And also like something else that's has come through in a number of these webinars that we've done is that while time consuming, is saving a time saving aspect of using AI is not the be all and end all. What it does do is it gives that more balanced perspective to our Tonga that if and Kayako that if we're saving a little bit of time, that's going to give them space and energy to look after their well-being. And we know how important that is in the education sector for everybody. So, I think it's while we don't necessarily use it just for that purpose, I think it has got certainly some prime objectives there for mental health and well-being for our Konga. What advice would you give to teachers or leaders who want to start their own AI journey? Thinking back 10 years ago, what advice would you give someone?
Going back into my TARDIS, I would say from small acorns, mighty oak trees grow. Oak trees grow. So start small. Build a culture of curiosity in your school, not compliance, like Ted Lasso. Be curious, not judgmental. Um, Ask what problem am I trying to solve for people, not what tool I'm trying to use. So don't make the tool the whole point of it. It's actually you're trying to focus on a pedagogical problem. Does the AI help? If not, don't use it. And I think it's about collaborating widely and always reflecting back on your practice often.
That's great, great answer. Thank you. And what's the next steps for Dr. Michael?
Very good question. Well, I've got a book in the pipeline. Trying to find a way to get that published. So anybody who's a publisher out there, yep, I've got a book. I've got a book offer. And I think yeah. So for me, it's yeah, both trying to make change. I'm also a member of the AI Forum and also the AI Community of Practice with Tim Gander, who's used to be Academy X as well. So yeah, we're trying to make that change at a national level to try and convince the government that we need an AI policy for the entire education system. So that's my
Yeah,
short-term goal, I guess. Yeah, or medium term.
yes. That's probably a little bit overdue having that sort of support, right, as well. What where would you suggest that people that are on the webinar today, if they were just wanting to get a little bit more information or just to move to that next step, what would you suggest the resource that they tap into?
I'm going to go for Tim. So the AI Community of Practice, we meet every 2 weeks for a little 2 hour session. And again, so that's been quite powerful for me to again develop connections with other kind of innovators or thought leaders in artificial intelligence and education space. Yeah, so when I went back to Gisborne this weekend, caught up with Shannon O'Connor, who is quite big in the Taunui collaboration there. That was a new connection I didn't know about, so we were having conversations how we can improve things and through a culturally responsive lens with the AI Forum. So yeah, so I suggest join that group.
Excellent, thank you, Michael. And just in terms of contact with you, are you comfortable that that we share your details with people that might request it or put it on this webinar? You might get inundated, and it is a busy time of the year, so I'm conscious of that too. But you're comfortable?
Yeah, I'm not really on X that much anymore. It's a bit toxic, but LinkedIn is probably the best way to find me. As a way to connect. Yeah, and I've just started AI and education assessment with Daniel Myberg as a group. So if anyone's interested in AI and assessment, add me, and I can get you involved in that group.
Thanks, Michael. And I do hope that is a background you've got there. That certainly wouldn't be something that you would be doing with your.
Very didactic. Yeah, there you go, boys. Right.
It almost gave me a headache looking at it. Okay. Look, that is the end of the formal part of this webinar. And Lisa, were there any questions that we needed to answer? We've got one chat.
No questions, Jill.
No questions.
Oh, must have been
Michael, you've blown everybody away with your answers, and I know that if it was me listening to this, I certainly would be going back through the recording just to pick up on some of the awesome tips that you've shared with us. And it's really, really nice coming from someone as experienced as you are, and also knowing that you did start off really small. I mean, you're incredibly knowledgeable and very well versed in implementing AI across the sector. But it's really, really nice hearing how you started off and how it's grown and the strategies that you've used to develop that at a personal level and then also at a professional level. And I just think that Marlborough Boys are very, very lucky to have you. And this is not a criticism, but you are so down to earth that it's just absolutely wonderful talking to you because, quite often educators can think that someone is their knowledge is well beyond them, but talking to you, you certainly do put it down to a level that everyone can understand. And certainly as the host of today's session, I really, really appreciated that. It's been wonderful talking to you. So if we could finish with karakia now. Ethna, could you pop the karakia up? Oh no, sorry, sure. We don't need it. I've got the karakia here. Oh, you're going to pop it up?
I will as well.
Okay. Yep. Ka whakairia ti tapu, kia watea ai te ara, kia turuku whakataha ai, kia turuku whakataha ai, hunie, haumie, huie, taekie, kia ora. And thank you everybody for your attendance and a really, really big thank you and paki again to Dr. Michael Harvey. It's been wonderful having you here and I hope to keep in contact and certainly we're tapping into your expertise in one way or the other. So have a wonderful Christmas and end of school year if we don't see you before then, Michael. Ka kite.
Amihi.